context are we talking about?
So in 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, when they kicked out the northern kingdom, and so they kicked out as a nation, so Ephraim, Manasseh, Issachar, Gad, Naphtali, etc.
Right.
What did they become when they got kicked out of Israel?
I don't know.
That's the Gentiles that it's talking about.
Damn right.
Where does it mention that they're the Gentiles?
That's right.
That's right.
Where does it say they're the Gentiles?
Okay, so let me give you a prophecy.
No, where does it say they're the Gentiles?
The word Gentile means nation. We agree, right?
Yeah, but you're saying that no. So I'm saying that the Gentiles biblically are non-Israelites.
No, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's
even in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, to say Gentiles are usually non-Israelites.
Yeah. So my question is, where does it call them? Where does it identify them as the Gentiles?
This context. If you listen to my opening statement, Gentile just means nation.
Dedicated to George Washington, when there's a bunch of dead Jakes underneath that. But it's neither here nor there. I just see it as a Mars Hill, BS, argument. But it had some good points in there, to no avail, though, within them, the crowd that's out there. You got Christians yelling, that's right. They mimicking and mocking. And, there's no end game to what they're doing. So, I'm not into all that, man, because the scripture says, let all things be done unto edifying, and at the end of the day, them people both left like feeling like they won and nobody changed. So what's the point to doing it? But I wanted to get into Romans chapter 11, okay? And what we have to understand is what Yahweh Shai was coming to do, and why did he have to come and do it? Okay, we're going to start that off. Let's go to Jeremiah, book of Jeremiah. I always bring this out as a foundational scripture. Okay, Jeremiah 3:8, it says, and I saw when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce. All right. And that happened during the time of, in the book of Kings, during the Assyrian Empire, when the Assyrian Empire took over Israel. The northern kingdom, the 10 tribes, said they're going to go to a land where neither mankind has dwelt, to keep the laws. And this is why I disagree with Tazariak when he said that, the breaking off of the branches, was the northern kingdom. Technically it's right, you know what I'm saying? Technically, but not spiritually, because the reason why I say that is because if that was the case, then that means, who out of the people in Israel at the time of Paul and Rome were the like specific northern kingdom. Okay, the northern kingdom already came to this side of the world. All right, so the gospel was preached unto the Israelites that were in Rome at the time, in the world of Rome, and you had Gentiles with pretty much 2/3 in the elect. I ain't gonna say 2/3 in the elect because really it was the knows. And the have and have-nots when it comes to the law, in the culture, because there was Israelites that kept their way, all right, and that's what, the average Christian doesn't understand, is that dealing with the Assyrian, the Babylonian, the Grecian, the Roman captivities, we have lost our ways and we became vassal states unto Rome, ultimately, really to a lot of these nations, because that's why, with the Assyrian Empire, it had the things to do with that so-called gifts, which is a tax. You know what I'm saying? Babylon, same thing, being taxed. And when we stopped paying the taxes, we were taken over. And the thing is that nations don't just, the Assyrians did it, they'll mow you down. All right, someone like Genghis Khan will do it, they'll mow you down. But most people that take over nations, they don't just mow you down, all right, because they want your riches. in order to get your riches, you have to maintain your culture because that's how you got it. All right. It's just like a business. I can't come and buy your business, buy your land, buy your building, and then say, okay, instead of selling burgers, we're going to sell books here. You know what I'm saying? And I want you to give me money. Or not even that. Instead of selling, I'm about to mow this down and turn it into an empty building. You know, like, and tell you to build up from the ground up, but you can't build your burger business anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like that. No, you're not going to get any money. Your best bet is to come in, take over their business, and just say it's under new management. Okay? That's all it is. Yeah, so the thing is that when we go into these captivities, they were taking us over with the desire of riches. Okay? They wanted to rule the world or whatever desire they had, but they didn't want to just mow people down and just wipe them out. All right. And if that came to a point, then they would just relocate you. That's what the Assyrians did to the northern kingdom. And during that displacement, they were displaced into a area where they couldn't keep their laws. All right. And so northern kingdom decided to come over here. And then through the Babylonian Empire, Jake did the same thing. All right. And so pretty much there were Israelites that kept the laws. And then not only did they get forced, but some of them did it on their own. All right. And that's why the Lord really got angry in the beginning with the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, because Jake was sacrificing unto idols. Dealing with Baal and all the gods of their neighboring countries, because it ain't no different from now. Jake see a country doing their thing, they become powerful. Jake start emulating it, just like they're up in America emulating Americans. You know what I'm saying? Which is not a nation. It's just a culture. But I guess you can say it is a nation, but I mean it's not an ethnicity. Okay. But yeah, they our people gravitate towards power. Okay, anybody gravitates towards power, for real. It's simple. Okay, but dealing with that, man, you had the Maccabean revolt and things like that. But fast forward to the time of Yahushua and Paul and everybody, through now Babylon's happened, the Syrian empires happened, Rome, Greece. At the time, Rome was still enacted and running and doing their thing, and pretty much it was a big argument between, speaking to the Israelites that became Romanized, like niggas becoming Americanized. The Israelites became Romanized. There was Rome. They believed in the Roman way. They wore their togas. They was going to the schools. They believed same way that these people believe in a Democrat Republic. They believe in the police. They believe in if you get your education at this school or that school, then you're actually smart. If you have money, then Esau's money, then you're actually smart. When a lot of people, that have money just probably they cheated their way to the top. They sexed their way to the top. Everybody didn't get up there off of tenacity and hard work. It was a lot of selling out and freakism. Okay, but that's neither here nor there. But getting to the point, let's get out some precepts, because once you go into Romans 11, Salakia, let me get this finish Jeremiah, because it says, Jeremiah 3:8, and it says, and I saw for all the causes where backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce. You see, because they had committed adultery before the act. They were serving other gods, and they were serving the gods of Babel, Assyria, forget these other motherfuckers, Sumerians, you know what I'm saying, Egypt, all right, because they was making leagues with Egypt, that's what caused Nebuchadnezzar to come down, because they were switching sides and dealing with Egypt a lot, all right, so, and that's another thing is that, even though we fled out of Egypt, Egypt still was a reigning power, an influential power. And we still dealt with Egypt a whole lot. All right. We fled into Egypt during the time of Yahushua. We were in Egypt during the time of Ptolemy Philadelphus, who actually helped rebuild, certain artifacts that were in our temple. Also, they where the Septuagint was made, but these were done by the Grecians. Really they were Edomites that took over Japhet. All right, but they were considered Grecians. You know what I'm saying? So these guys, we were in Egypt. I believe there was a temple in Egypt as well, a second temple that was built down there, and it was an argument whether the high holy days should be kept at that temple or the temple in Jerusalem, and everybody settled, of course, on the temple in Jerusalem. All right, I believe that's in the Josephus, so it ain't like it's concrete, but going on, it says Jeremiah 3:3-8. It says, I have put her away and given her a bill of divorce, yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played a harlot also. And this is why I referenced that it's not just the northern kingdom that was broken off. Our people was broken off in an entirety, okay, which is why Yahushua had to come back and redeem us. All right, it wasn't just the 10 tribes. It was the nation of Israel in its entirety, because the Lord and the disciples, mainly during Yahushua's ministry with the 12 disciples, it was mainly primarily towards Judah, okay? Because Yahushua himself physically went over to the North Americas, and they interpret it as Quetzalcoatl, and I forget the other one, but he came over and spoke to Israelites over here. That's why it says, he said, I should go, and you should, you not find me. And they said, well, shall he go to the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? Okay, because Israel was dispersed amongst Rome, the Romans, but also they interpret that he was going to go amongst them, which was true for them. It was almost a prophecy for themselves. But Yahushua actually came over to the Americas and taught the northern kingdom, and gave them prophecy. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I say they interpret it as Quetzalcoatl and other things of that nature, the flying serpent, such on and so forth. All right, and it says, and I saw, back to Jeremiah 3:9, it says, and it came to pass through the lightness of her whoredom that she defiled the land and committed adultery with stones and with stocks. And yet for all this her treacherous sister Judah have not turned unto me with her whole heart, but vainly, saith the Lord. You see, so this was both tribes. All right, but let's get back to Romans chapter 11. All right, and the whole chapter goes in, but I start at 11. It says, I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? Yahweh forbid, but rather through their fall salvation is come unto the Gentiles, for to provoke them to jealousy. Because what was happening was the Israelites that were in the know, the ones that fought and stayed strong and held the laws, because that's what Jake got to understand. There's an extrapolation here that needs to be understood. These are people that didn't sell out. All right, look at how Jake treat niggas that sell out. They come and act like Edomites. They come telling you like they, on a base level. Oh, I voted for Trump. You guys are lazy. You guys are this, and they like, I don't associate with you guys. I'm an American. I'm not black. And then you would be pissed the hell off as an average low level Jake nigga. Oh, the hell with this nigga. He ain't our people. This is what was going on in mass with the Israelites that fought to remain and keep their laws, because our laws are very dear to us. Our laws are our culture, is our wisdom in the sight of the nations, as the scriptures say. This is our identity, outside of the Most High, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, but this is our tangible identity, okay? Because we were originally intended to be a city without walls, all right? To be a city without a king. And because our king was meant to be Yahweh, okay, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, but our people asked for a king, and therefore we got Saul. But, before then we just had judges, All right. But the point is that, our people wanted to be like the other nations. All right. So it says, I say then. So, get back to what I was saying is that, during the Maccabean revolt and all that, our people held strong and it fought off Antiochus, fought off the Grecians at that time, made leagues with just certain nations. And through, all that fighting, Hanukkah and all that fighting, Jake got a stronghold. And they got shit back together, because through Antiochus Epiphanes, we lost a lot of our culture, man. All right, he was purposefully teaching our people not to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments. All right, and he made a law that we couldn't sacrifice, we couldn't do them things, and that's where Hanukkah came about, because we fought and got that restored. Okay, and when we fought and got that restored, the Levites, after they won, the Levites was like, we good. That's what the whole fight was for our laws. Now we got the laws, we're good. But the Maccabeans continued with the mindset of a kingdom, okay? And they began to go to war and expand in that format, all right? And so, the Levites never followed with that, and they stayed where they was at, all right? And I forget the name, but I think it was Alexandra. All right. But there was a wife that pretty much enacted those Levites. Okay. The Sadducees, the Pharisees. I think she rode with the Pharisees. I think it was the Sadducees, one of the other two. But this is how the Pharisees got into power like they did. Okay. And the Sadducees as well, But this is how they got into power, because they always existed, but they were never put in place of power like they were until that so-called queen. She wasn't queen. She was the wife of a king, and pretty much she used them to establish the law. And while her sons, John Hyrcanus and I think it's Aristobulus or Antigonus, it was like a war between them two, where I believe Aristobulus was the more one that was ready, but John Hyrcanus II ended up selling out, But I could get the story wrong, 'cause I think it's the son was Alexander, and then he had the kids or something like that, and Simon was told through prophecy not to have him up there. You know what I'm saying? Because he knew he wasn't going to be shit. And it ended up being like that. And pretty much we got to the point that the Pharisees was sitting like kings. They had the power of a king. Before that, they didn't have the power of a king. They just did their daily sacrifice and their duties. And the kings were the kings. And the prophets were the prophets. All right? But it got to a point where the Pharisees were the ones that were dictating the laws and the judgments and executions and things like that. And, they were judging the people, okay? And, like I said, because you got the story of King Solomon with the woman, the two harlots, and they had the baby. The kings were judging, but it turned to the Pharisees judging everything, all right? And, that's around the time Herod, which was an Idumean, Edomite, they were sitting on thrones and things like that. So with that being said, you had all that going on. So these people were very heavy on the law as a people, but then the people at the top, they made it to the top by doing that, by establishing a law, walking around with their garments on. And the Maccabees had good intent, but it got sour after a while, all right? Because once everything got established and they got their power, they started making leagues with Rome and they started getting deals. Okay, ain't no different from these false prophets that get into high power. They start off with good intent, and then they start getting deals. All right, they start getting paid, and then they're compromised. All right, and they're gonna keep doing the thing that got them where they were. Ain't no different from Alizé and Tazariak. You know what I'm saying? But Tazariak does a good work. All right, there's certain things he goes off on that we don't agree with in doctrine, but I can respect his work, me personally speaking as a man, even though I believe it's redundant, but the information that's being brought out is beautiful, okay? And the confounding that's going on is beautiful. It's beautiful to us, but it ain't going to make no Christian change. It ain't going to make no Israelites stronger in the faith, all right? So that's why I say it's redundant, all right? But we need to be in these prophecies, okay? Because you see when he was going back and forth with God Logic, when he started asking him something that was more prophetic, he didn't know. All right, and he got all up in arms and was ready to argue about something he did know. Okay, but going back to Romans 11, like I said, going up to this time, why was it they provoked to jealousy? Because you fought and you fought to keep the laws. That's your history. You know what I'm saying? Our people, fought against the white man and all that. Like, you could have that notch on your belt, but really you a whole clown out here. You just repping off the histories of your predecessors, but you're not living in their name. You know what I'm saying? And then you had the people that were in Rome that act like Romans, but they believed. So that's a thing of jealousy. It will create jealousy. You know what I'm saying? That's like you taking care of your sick parent and you're doing it reluctantly. You're doing it with anger. You're doing it. You're not seasoning the food when you cook food for them, and you're not doing this. You're not doing that. And then, you got the black sheep as a brother. He's always running the streets. And then that person then says, you know what? I'm about to call you a brother. And then a brother, even though he was gone, he comes back like, bro, you've been fucking over Pops. Like, what you doing? You know what I'm saying? And you start doing it the right way. And what happened is that makes the brother that's always been there have to step back and watch the new brother come in and do it with fresh eyes, right? So that's, and I'm pretty much summing up Romans 11. We're going to read it and do it with fresh eyes. And now it gave space for the whole of Israel to come in. So now the brother that was watching, that was reluctant and do it the right way, he get to see the black sheep brother do it the right way. You know what I'm saying? And then he said, okay, and he is going to make him, that godly jealousy is going to make him feel bad and say, you know what? Damn, I need to get my shit together. You know what I'm saying? So let's get back to it. Romans 11:12, it says, now if the fall of them be the riches of the world and the diminishing of them the riches of the Gentiles, how much more the fullness? Okay? It's because the fall of our people was, matter of fact, let's get that real quick. We always get it. So when we go into First Maccabees, chapter 1 and 11, it says, in those days went out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant. All right, a covenant. All right, it's not like, not only is it agreement, but it's a change of lifestyle. All right, make a covenant with who? The heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. Okay, this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen, whereupon they built a place of exercise according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. You see, so it's telling you that they made themselves uncircumcised. They pretty much changed their whole culture, man. All right. And it also tell you like, oh, since we departed, our life became much sorrows. Pretty much when they wasn't attached to the machine. It ain't to put in lame terms, it's like a mainstream artist just going back underground. They detach themselves from Universal Records. They detach themselves from all that big ass machine, and it becomes a struggle. Okay. And so our people didn't have the discipline to weather that storm. And those people then went and joined Rome. And it got so bad that they built citadels right next to the temple, which led to, I think it was in 90 AD. I think it's, because you got 90 AD, or I think 90 BC and 70 AD. You know, one of them was based off of taxes. The first one was based off of taxes dealing with, John Hyrcanus. But then the second one was dealing with, Gentiles and Israelites. And they started, I believe it's a saying that they was like making a sacrifice on a foot. They built a porch that extended and blocked the temple entrance. And then they pretty much was trying to block them from entering the temple properly. And then they got so brazen that they started sacrificing on the porch. And that's what made Jake click out on Jake. You know what I'm saying? That caused the war that happened with Titus, and Vespasian and all that to go down, all right, with the Alexander Tiberius and all them, all right. So, this was a situation that Christians don't understand, that there's a beef between Israel in the know and Israel that were of Rome, aka the Gentiles, all right. And for it, pretty much, if it had something to do with man, it would have been impossible for them to be grafted back in because it was too much fucking beef. That's like Bloods and Crips coming together. It'll take something massive for them to squash an age-old beef that nobody knows what's the point of it. Like, it's the beef has lost its savor, but it's so ingrained in our people that you'll have somebody in the middle of Nebraska that'll be beefing with a Crip that's a Blood. And they ain't even got no reason to beef, But the original Bloods and Crips in Cali, nigga took his sandwich, so now they beefing. Like, so, like you wasn't there for that. So Yahweh Shai was like fixing all that. So, but let's get back to it. Verse 12, it says, now if the fall of them be the riches of the world, and the diminishing of them the riches of the Gentiles, how much more their fullness? For I speak to you Gentiles, inasmuch as I am the apostle of the Gentiles, I magnify my office. If by any means I may provoke them to emulation, them which are my flesh, and might have saved some of them. And in NLT it says, for I want somehow to make the people of Israel jealous of what you Gentiles have, so I might save some of them. Pretty much showing them that the Lord, pretty much with the Gentiles, he was showing them the whole purpose of this truth, which is, grace and doing good. It got to the point, I ain't gonna say grace, but what grace is doing, is a part of it, because, David and the shewbread, you know what I'm saying? Like, there is a righteousness to this, with, oh man, if your ox is in a ditch, would you not, like, there was missing all that because it got so stuck on the law. And that's the same thing we're going through now. The fringes, the borders, where's your head wrap? Where's your this? But the faith that was in them was more powerful than those fringes and those borders. Okay? Because that's why even the Lord was like, the outside of their graves is white, but the inside is dead. That's what the in the know church, the Israelites, that was a part of Israel, that knew they were Israel. That's what they were, because they didn't have the spirit, they didn't have the zeal, according to knowledge, according to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. They didn't have a desire to be good people. Okay, they just kept the laws, and they felt like that made them good. That ain't no different from somebody out here. They keep the speed limit, they pay their taxes, but they racist as hell. You know what I'm saying? They ain't no different from Edomites that do that shit. Like, they'll keep all that, but let you and Tanner come up to a job interview, they'll pick Tanner every time. All right. And it's like, there's no law that say he can't do that. Outside of the DEI or whatever you call that, the direct employment shit, you know what I'm saying? And, you get my point. Because you could be evil and be within the law. All right? That's why the scriptures say the law is good if a man use it lawfully. Right? So it says, in verse 15, it says, for if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? Okay? So he's saying, hey, let's get that word reconcile, because you go into the word reconcile in the etymology, right? Because that's an important word. The word reconcile means transitive in reference to persons, to restore, to union a friendship after estrangement or variance, also of God or Yahweh Shai, restore to favor or grace. All right. And you go to the word restore. That said enough, but I'm going to go to the word restore as well. It says to give back, also to build up again, to repair, renew, reestablish. Okay. So when you restore something, that means it was once that thing, right? What the Lord said, what has the heathen, what has thou done to declare my statutes? The Lord was never with the heathen. So how can they be restored? Okay. The Israelites were the broken branches and we were restored. That's how you would grasp when you grab something, that you restore it. He came to redeem the nation of Israel, to buy back. All right. And you got God Lodge saying, where does it say specifically? Specifically. The scriptures tell you in Mark 4:11, it was written in a mystery, because if he tell you plain, then everybody will believe. Somebody like God Logic ain't meant to believe. Okay, that's just that. All right, so going back, it says, for if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy. Okay, so the first fruit is the original intent, the whole nation of Israel. The ones that stood strong, the ones that fought through the Maccabean revolt, all that, okay? And if the root be holy, so are the branches. So it's saying like the whole tree, like Israel is holy, the law is holy, our culture is holy, but we all came from that. So the Israelites that has been Romanized, they're those branches that, like, y'all cool. They're the broken off branches. They broke off. Okay? But the Lord says y'all love the same lump. Y'all all love the same tree. Okay? Says, and if some of the branches be broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree were grafted in among them, okay, and with them partakest of the root and fatness of the olive tree, boast not against the branches. But if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root to thee. Because he said, don't boast against the branches. Don't, y'all fucked up, so no, you can't do that, because we're all of the same tree. The Israelites that remain after the Maccabean revolt, but then they became, degenerate in a way of not being pure on the inside. The Gentiles then came in because they were pure on the inside, but dirty on the outside. Okay, for them to come in and made the natural branches jealous. But the grafted in branches can't then now start talking shit to the natural branches saying, oh, well, we're better than you. No, it was the whole point is for all of us to get back together. All right. Not just the northern and southern kingdom, but ultimately the 2/3 in the elect. I can't say the 2/3 in the elect, the no's and the no nots. Because the Gentiles that converted and repented, they are of the elect. That's why I can't say it's 2/3 in the elect, because they were in a 2/3 state of mind, but they, the Lord the elect was chosen before the foundation of the world, i.e. them, which caused them to be able to be, grafted back in through grace. Okay. It says, thou would say then, the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. Right. So that's what happens. So don't boast against them. Well, because of unbelief, they were broken off. That's why they were considered Gentiles. All right. They believed in other cultures. They believed in other gods. It ain't like they just stopped believing and then started shooting marbles in the desert. No, they stopped believing and started believing in Baal. They started sacrificing it to other gods. Okay. It says, well, because of unbelief, they were broken off, and thou standest by faith. Be not high-minded, but fear. Okay. Because you were brought in by faith. So in grace. So we can't just sit there and say, oh, we're better than them because they was there and they weren't doing it right. And it took us to come up in here and get it back going. Now they held it down. Okay. So, it's like I said, if you got a father that's too weak to take care of himself, and then you got the son that was there the whole time taking care of the father, but he was doing it reluctantly, he give him thin sheets when it's time to go to bed. He's just throwing a sheet on him. He ain't tucking them in. You know what I'm saying? He just fixing the food any kind of way. But then the other son, he went and played the nomad and lived the street life, and brought an ill name to the family by doing that, not taking care of the house. He then comes back like a prodigal son and then start taking care of the father the internal proper way. He may not put no gloves on when he do it. He may not use the same seasonings, but he's actually using seasonings. He's actually covering them up. He's actually, he may not use the brush that we normally use. He may not use the tools that we normally use, but he's doing it with TLC, tender love and care. You know what I'm saying? And then that makes the person that was there the whole time, because he's the only person there. So the father could have been like, you taking care of me, but you ain't doing it right. I'm the only one here, right? And then you get the prodigal son come back, and he's taking care of the right way, but he might not have the same tools or the same way to do it. And now the son that been there gotta be ashamed of staying back. But the son that came can't sit there and say, this is why I had to come here, because you're not good enough. No, because he was there the whole time doing something, and while you were gone. So now both of y'all are to back together, taking care of the father. So it that should make sense. All right. Now, we're not taking care of the father as in Yahweh Yahweh Shai, but the father in this reference is this gospel, our culture. Okay. The Israelites of old maintained the culture. The Gentiles came back and gave it life through their faith, in the spirit. Okay. It says, behold, therefore, verse 22, behold, Romans 11 and 22, behold, therefore, the goodness and severity of the Most High on them which fell severity, but toward thee goodness, if thou continue in his goodness. Otherwise, thou shalt also be cut off. All right. So I want to get this precept real quick. I want to go to 2nd Ezra chapter 1 and 33. It says, thus saith the Almighty Lord, your house is desolate. I will cast you out as the wind doth stubble, and your children shall not be fruitful. Your children shall not be fruitful, for they have despised my commandment and have done the thing that is evil before me. Your houses will I give to a people that shall come, which not having heard of me shall believe me, to whom I have showed no signs, yet they shall do that I have commanded them. All right. This was prophesied from the beginning. All right. They have seen no prophets, yet they shall call their sins to remembrance and acknowledge them. I take to witness the grace of the people to come, whose little ones rejoice in gladness, And though they have not seen me with bodily eyes, yet in spirit they believe the thing that I say. So those are the people that weren't called by his name, technically. All right. So it's not like, oh, it was Israel, then I'm going to call some random nation because they're going to know how to do it and show you guys out. That's not what happened. All right. What happened was the people that kept the laws and was calling and praying to the Lord, they weren't doing it the right way. And so the Lord called the Gentiles in that they weren't thinking about the Lord. They were thinking about Zeus. They was thinking about all kind of shit. They were thinking about the Colosseum. They was thinking about, oh, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. All right. They haven't, they lost contact with their motivation wasn't the scriptures in our history. Their motivation was what's in front of them. Just like being in America today. There's a lot of niggas out here whose motivation is to be a basketball player, to be a doctor, to be this, be that, whatever America offers. But then you'll hear about this gospel and it'll change you. Okay? It changed your desire. It changed your soul. Okay? I want to go to 2nd Ezra 2 and 10. Okay? It says, thus saith the Lord unto Ezra, tell my people that I will give them the kingdom of Jerusalem, which I would have given unto Israel. Okay? Tell my people, because they can't understand how the wild branches, the branches broken off and the grafted in, and the lump, and if it's Israel, if it's heathen. This is right here, shuts it down. Tell my people, 2nd Ezra 2 and 10, thus saith the Lord unto Ezra, tell my people that I will give them the kingdom of Jerusalem, which is Israel. My people is Israel, which I have given unto Israel. Right? Take heaven and earth to witness, for I have broken the evil in pieces and created the good, for I live, said the Lord. All right. And in the same chapter, when you jump to verse 33, it says, I, Ezra, received a charge of the Lord upon Mount Oreb, that I should go unto Israel. But when I came unto them, they set me at naught and despised the commandment of the Lord. Okay. And therefore I say unto you, O ye heathen, that hear and understand, look for your shepherd. He shall give you everlasting rest, for he is nigh at hand, that shall come in the end of the world. So it's telling you right there, he considers Jake heathen that don't keep the laws, that be going off and shit, man. So, and when you jump down to verse 38, it says, arise and stand up. Arise and stand, behold, the number of those that be sealed in the feast of the Lord, which are departed from the shadow of the world, and have received glorious garments of the Lord. All right, they came out of the world. All right, he said he chose us out of the world. All right, we've been grafted back in. Okay, call all Yabashim El Shai. Take thy number, O Zion, and shut up those that are. Shut up those of thine that are clothed in white, which have fulfilled the law of the Lord. The number of thy children whom thou longest for is fulfilled. Beseech the power of the Lord, that thy people, which have been called from the beginning, may be hallowed. I saw Ezra upon Mount Zion, a great people whom I could not number, and they all praise the Lord with songs. And this goes into those who stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord. Okay, so Jake got to understand that grafting in is talking about the redemption of Israel, the reconciliation. And again, to reconcile means to restore, to bring back, to not to build a new building, but to restore a building, to refurbish a building. All right. If I tell you, you have a video game and then I refurbish it, okay, or I reconcile it, it was broken, but I reconciled it unto you. That means I fixed it and gave you your same game back. All right. There's no way you can reconcile with something that you had no attachment to. It's a gift at that point. It's not a reconciliation. It's just a regular gift. All right. If heathen were say, hey, you can come into this truth, that's not a reconciliation. That's an invite. All right. So this is like semantics and stripes of words with these people, and then trying to take little key words or little general words and try to say, see, this is what it says. And I agree with Tazariak when he said, look, y'all sitting here just saying things, and using your opinion as a fact, man. That's what these Christians do, because the Christian doctrine has been held as the standard to the Bible, which is Christianity is bullshit, man. I'm talking about the Roman Catholic Church, the regular Christian, the people that when you go in these churches and they sing and dance, passing out collection plates and all that, it's bullshit. They don't know prophecy. They don't understand the scriptures. All right. But the Israelites that are in the know understand. All right. But these people, it's all over. Everybody believe in the Holy Trinity. Everybody believe that heathens are Gentiles and they're the ones that can make it. And so when he just says it, everybody just believes it because that's the consensus gentium. All right. But then when you get into the scriptures, it doesn't agree with that, because that whole doctrine from the Christian church was pushed by Edom. All right. And it was, it was stages, because you had Constantine, then you had, Edom coming in through the Reconquista, and then the Renaissance and all that. OK, that distorted the scriptures. All right. Through the Vatican and the Catholic Church and slavery. A lot of manipulation and twisting of the scriptures came about, man. All right. So, yeah, man, I just wanted to bring that out, man. Hopefully it was edifying. With that being said, and we'll give all praises unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakwadash, double honors to our apostles who are elders who rule well. Blessed salutations to you brothers out there teaching and enduring truth, sincerity. Shalom.